Good afternoon, and welcome to a presentation on transition to adulthood, planning for life after high school, entitled "It's All About Quality of Life," because when we're thinking about ourselves, we want a strong quality life for ourselves, and we want the same for the students that we're working with, and for you, our families, for your sons and daughters. So my name is Betty Lou Rowe. I am an educational consultant here at the Indiana Resource Center for Autism. So once again, thank you for joining us this afternoon. So we're going to start the presentation with a short video that was created by the ARC called Future Planning 101.
Everyone has ideas for what they want to do in their lives. To achieve these goals and dreams, people make a future plan. A future plan includes information about your life at this moment, like where you live, what you do each day, your likes and dislikes, and important people in your life. A future plan also includes ideas for what you want to do in the future. This may include information about where you want to live or work, or new activities you want to try, or people you want to meet. Thinking about the future can be scary, but planning for the future is possible and necessary. Planning for the future with people you trust can help you overcome these fears. Making a plan for the future is important because it helps you make sure you live the life you want. A future plan can also help people in your life know what you want to have happen in your life. The first step to take to make a future plan is to think about whose advice or help you want to make your plan. You can get advice or help from your family, friends, or other important people in your life. The most important thing to do to get started making a future plan is to start talking. Let's learn from a few people about why future planning is important to them.
You got to plan out what what you want to do, and you got to know and rely on people that you trust in your life to get there. You got to work that into, the planning process. And then once you have a plan, take action.
I challenge you to be great, to let nothing stop you, to always stay focused, and to never let no one tell you you can't. Don't give up.
If you want to do future planning, the steps you need to take are develop a circle of support, which includes allies, friends, people who believe in you, people who have high expectations, people that are willing to, push you out of your comfort zone. That is one of the best things that people can do. Presume competence.
Future planning. It's possible and necessary. Think about what you want to happen. Find people you trust. Talk to them about what you want.
Right, so we're going to return back to our PowerPoint here. So I like that video a lot, and you can access that on the ARC. You can also access by putting Future Planning 101, the ARC and YouTube if you'd like to see that again. It really talks to the individuals, but I think it's a great video for those who are in the lives of the individuals we're speaking about, who is their support system, to see that and kind of get energized about thinking about planning for the future. So a question often asked is, when do you start? Well, we're going to talk later a little bit about that, but right now, when you think about from a paperwork standpoint, IEPs that include a transition component begin when the student turns 14 through the completion of high school. That is Indiana's rule. The federal rule says you must start by the age of 16, but many states have a different age, usually a little lower, a little younger age, to start that planning process. The idea of a transition IEP, that is not dependent on a student's disability category. Anyone with an IEP, no matter their disability, will have the transition IEP beginning when they're 14 in the state of Indiana. It's not dependent on a student's graduation pathway either. They could be earning a diploma, they might be earning the certificate of completion, or they may be aging out. Anyone with an IEP, once again, no matter the disability, no matter the pathway that they're taking towards completion of high school, it does not depend on any of that. It's all about having the IEP. Everyone's eligible. It is the law that you would begin that by the age of 14. And the other big piece are students are invited to attend and participate in their transition IEP meeting. Many students begin in middle school to start attending their IEP, the meetings. And the largest component of that is whenever they're going to begin, that we explain what the IEP process is. Why are we getting people around and talking? And you're the focus. What does that mean? How do you contribute? Why should you be there? And so whenever they begin, the students begin participating, for sure, when you start talking about transition. And then once again, that doesn't have anything to do with the level of disability that they have or about their communication systems. They are there to share their thoughts in the voice that they have. We as staff, we as family members are their trusted circle. And so we're advocating as well, but they should be present to begin showing their ownership around that IEP process as well. So the transition IEP, for sure, all IEPs, they should be of quality. And when we start talking about transition information and transitioning students, that we want to make sure that that transition IEP meets the student's needs. There's an outline of an implementation plan to address those needs, and the result in improved academic outcomes that will prepare students to achieve their post-secondary goals. So when talking about it at 14 helps, because as students start to get into high school more and more, and they are trying to determine what classes they might want to take or what other experiences, opportunities, and activities they might do, that's going to help guide that. So the earlier time of 14 works great as we're starting a solid quality plan going into those high school years. Where do we begin? Big question. We begin with assessment. And assessment is not, don't think standardized tests, big, circle in the Scantron. This is about truly assessing where the kiddos are, but what their strengths, what their skills, what they see for themselves as they move towards a future. So when we think about transition assessments, we want them to be authentic assessments. This isn't something we're just making up, that we think these are important questions to have. No, these are quality and authentic assessments. These assessments are simple tools that they capture what the related services the students are currently having, the activities that they are involved in, not only in the classroom, but during community-based instruction or their time in the community with you, volunteerism, whether or not they're in some specified technical programs or other specific intentional programs around skills. And we are also looking at it throughout the school year and throughout their school time. So it's not a one-off. Authentic assessments can help form transition and IEP decision making. We need to have a path that we're going to take, and these authentic assessments help us do that. And Mary Held and Dr. Teresa Grassi from the Center on Community Living and Careers at the IIDC help us to remember that transition assessment is an ongoing process. We build upon it over the years to help the student identify strengths, preferences, interests, and needs. It's scaffolding on top, it's layering, because all kids grow during this time, no matter if they have been identified with a varying ability. And so that's why we don't do anything just one time. We don't just take one set of information and that's what it is forever. We have to allow conversations, intentional conversations, to happen. So Indiana Secondary Transition Resource Center provides for staff this transition assessment matrix, which is a great tool that they can use. And in this, it allows the team to choose variables based on each student. And it has topic areas where we focus on, when we think about transition planning, we're focused on these three areas: employment, education training, and independent living. And so the matrix allows us to choose the focus area that we're looking for, as well as the grade level. And they place these assessments in ranges of 6, thinking that idea of 6th to 8th grade, 9 to 10, 11, 12. And then also you can mark the student's disability there as well. And then upon these variables being checked, they are given suggested assessments to use in the planning. And the assessments are important because now we can think about what post-secondary goals we're going to begin to create based on education training, employment, and independent living. So to get to the goals, we do the assessments. And we're also, just so you know, it's not just about these authentic assessments. We do gather information. We gather information from the families and from the kids and from their teachers as well to help guide. But the assessments are a huge part of what we can do. So we'll break this down so we have a better understanding about those focus areas. When we think about education, they are defining that around a community or technical college, such as a two-year experience, a 4-year college or university, or compensatory or continuing education, depending upon the age of the student that we're talking about. With training, this is where we start to look at some specific training programs that are there. It might be that if I am in a vocational school or I'm doing some apprenticeship, I'm doing job shadowing, and that with the technical schools, that is a less than 2 years program. I'm also maybe working with a group on my workforce development. So that's when we think about training. That's where we would go. Employment, we talk about full or part-time paid employment, whether it's competitive or it's supported, or those who are looking at military service. Independent living skills is another focus area for those. This may not be an area that everyone needs to have information on, once again, depending upon the individual, but we would look into these domains of daily living skills, leisure and recreation, transportation, home maintenance, personal care, and community participation. So basically, we're drawing this picture by using these focus areas where we are beginning this picture about where the kiddos are now, knowing that each year we're going to keep building on that, and that picture will begin to grow and be colored in based on their experiences. One way that we can start thinking about planning is to use something called person-centered planning. And the purpose of that is to start to look at an individual in a different way, meaning that often the adults, both when you think school and in our families, they have their own thoughts about me as the individual, and they might be drawing that picture based on what they know. But where is my ability to be part of that conversation? And I don't have to just be verbal to share my interests and my skills and who I am. You got to meet me where I am. So start looking at me as a participant in my plan. We want to assist the focused person gaining control of their own life, to increase opportunities for participation in the community. So it hits on those pieces about thinking about what I'm doing now as a person who lives in my neighborhood or my community, in my city, what's out there for me and what am I doing about that? To recognize individual desires, interests, and dreams. And through the team effort, develop a plan so you can turn my dreams into reality. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that by using this approach. This is one approach. There's many different approaches, several, that you can think about when you're looking at person-centered planning. But the one I'm going to talk about today is MAPS. It's make action plans. And so when we look at a map, and it's just that, we start to draw this picture, we draw this map of where I am. So we start with history. And the history piece is the story so far. It describes my personal history as a student, highlights that have helped shape my life. And so I'm going to share those with my team. And when you think about a person-centered team meeting, it can look a lot different than sitting around the IEP table, the conference table. The great thing about person-centered planning is we often ask the kiddo to help us, or the young adult to help us create what that will look like. Where do you want to have it? Do you want to have it at school? Or would you like to have it at a restaurant? Would you like to have it at your home? Who would you like to be present there? So that student is those people that have helped shape their lives. They want them to be part of that. So the person-centered planning should feel very relaxed. It's a relaxed time for us to really have some intentional conversations. So after they share their history, we're going to talk about dreams. And these are short and long-term dreams that we're talking about. And the first person who should have their voice heard about their dreams is the student that we're talking about. And then we invite others from the team to share dreams about what they were thinking about for that individual. Fears and nightmares, those are the barriers that we might see in realizing the dream that I have. And so when we look at those kind of fears, those are fears that the individual have, but there are also fears that possibly that core group, that support system for that individual, you may also have some fears that you would like to be considered when you're thinking about the dreams. And the thing about dreams too is it does, when we start asking questions, to be honest, sometimes they can come up and someone shares a dream that they have that the people around that group fear that cannot be realized due to the nature of their varying ability. And it's not a time that we crush that dream to say, oh no, you can't do that. But it's the first step that we hear them verbalize or communicate to us what they're thinking. And from there, we can start making that action plan that we're going to talk about. So gifts and capacities is also another piece of this map, and that's strengths and interests. So when we think about that, we are asking, what do you like to do? Like, what activities do you do now? What activities would you like to do in the future? What hobbies do you have? What's your strengths and your skills? Because they have lots of gifts, and we want to make sure that is heard. And it's a very visual piece. So if you can visualize yourself, maybe long Post-it paper up, and those areas, history, dreams, fears, gifts, are up there, along with needs, are up along a wall. And as you're discussing it, then the leader of that PCP is up there writing everything down. Everything goes up to show validation that we're hearing everybody who is there to support the individual. And then the needs piece, that's where we start to review and prioritize that. And with that, we can start forming an action plan. And that action plan goes along with that transition plan of where we're headed, the things that we might do to realize the dreams of that individual, or the things we might have to do to navigate that dream. Because the dream itself might feel far-fetched, but it doesn't mean that I might not get any part of that dream. So it really just helps us focus and be intentional. There's a book, it's not a very large book, and I like it a lot. It's called Building New Worlds. It's by Beth Mell and Connie Lyle O'Brien. And there's a couple things that they really focus on in this book, and it's the 5 valued experiences and person-centered practices. So those are 2 things that kind of go together. So this is sort of like you have this bowl and you might have some cherries in that bowl. And so the first thing when we think about the person-centered practices is that we are creating vision. We're building that community for the individual. We're sharing resources because everyone who is there to be supportive of that individual are bringing different things to the table. So let's talk about resources that we all have. And discovering capacity, that idea that I have more that I can learn as an individual. I have more growth to happen, and I just need the opportunity to do that. And then developing the supports. What supports are there and what supports are needed to help me be successful in my life and have a quality life. So sort of the cherries in that bowl: contributing, belonging, sharing places, being somebody, choosing. These are what Mountain O'Brien called the 5 valued experiences. So we're going to start with sharing places. So many times, individuals with varying abilities, we have immediate places that they go, but are we really out there being active in our community? Am I seeking out or being given the opportunity to go out to just ordinary places or activities that are out there in my community that those of my same age would be attending? That my varying ability shouldn't be seen as the barrier. So getting there, making sure that is accessible to me. That's on the place and not on the fact of I have a varying ability. So let me go out. Let's figure out how I can share places with those in my community. Belonging. That's another one of the experiences that they had talked about, and that we know we are better when we have relationships. And so individuals with varying ability also need to have relationships. Their relationships become very dependent often on the fact they're in school and they have their family. But once they leave K-12 education, a lot of those relationships don't continue because they were based in time and space of there. So how can we make sure that we allow for more relationships to be developed and they can have a sense of belonging? With being somebody, we all want respect. We all want to be seen of who we are. And perceptions can happen based on the way I look, the way I talk, the way I communicate with someone. And so what this idea is, if I can go out and I can have shared places and I can build relationships, then I can see where respect starts to come from me as a human being, and that the stereotypical perceptions of my disability, that doesn't hold me back. I'm going to be part of that community, and I'm going to share places with those of my same age. Choosing. Choice is an art, and lots of times that when we think about our individuals, choice was sometimes complicated and sometimes difficult, and often they didn't have a lot of opportunity to choose. But choosing is it's a huge part of life, and so if someone is always choosing for me, my voice is not heard. So finding those places where I can have both large and small choices happen is important. We want to encourage that self-advocacy and determination. Finally, contributing. We believe that students and young adults with disabilities have the opportunity to contribute their gifts. We all have gifts. We have talents, and we have ways that we can contribute. But often our individuals are used to receiving supports and receiving other people's gifts and talents. And what they're saying is, look here, look at what I can do, and I can contribute to my community, to my neighborhood, to my family, to my friends. And so finding ways for them to do that just is another layer to their quality of life. Moving into this idea of VR, Vocational Rehabilitation Employment Services, and you may have heard of VR. The employment programs are for high school students and adults. To be referred, that referral to VR can happen through the school, through family, if you have a Medicaid waiver manager, and the individual with a disability could also call or contact VR and talk to them about referral. VR has certain services that they do provide, and they provide vocational guidance and counseling, job placement assistance, education training, medical services, and assistive technology that have to do with employment. So VR is sort of this umbrella of when we think about students that are in school and also who are adults. So let's talk a little bit more about that. The process is there's an application to complete. They should always include all relevant medical information, but VR may still request further evaluation, which would be at no cost to the individual or to the family. Because of the number of people who may be looking for support from VR, their resources could be stretched. And if they are and they cannot meet everyone's needs at the time, they have something called order of selection. And this is where they will support those first with the most significant needs around employment. And then there's sort of that list, that waiting list of when they may be able to get to a certain individual. The next steps with VR is once an application is accepted and they're moving forward, is they develop an individualized plan for employment, which they call your plan. And they might do some discovery, which are activities that they want to do to see where things are, the individual skills and strengths. And what's great is if they're coming from school has often started these discovery steps, and they can share that with VR so that VR is not starting at the ground floor with an individual. They can gather that information from the school and from you and other experiences that they have. The question is always, when does VR stop supporting? Well, when an individual has worked for 90 days and he or she and the counselor agree it's going well, they may indeed say, I think we can close this case. If I lose my job, I can contact my case manager to let them know that I no longer have the job, and they would talk with me and counsel me through what happened, if anything, and how they may be able to help me moving forward. If I'm still in high school, I may be going through the pre-employment transition services, which is also called PREITs, and that's for individuals ages 14 to 22. And so with that, they work through these areas as well, and trying to help guide that high school student into a great transition plan. So PREITs, those who are PREITs sort of case coordinators, work with the school and to help guide those pieces and be part of the individual's team. And at the bottom of this, you can see they have a website that's you can gather more information from. So just some other considerations. And I won't go into deep details about these, but if these are things that you're thinking about and you want more guidance on, we can help you with that. But if the supplemental security income SSI for children, so that's for children that are under the age of 18 or under the age of 22 if they are currently attending school. And so that's supplemental income that if you aren't receiving it and you wonder if you're eligible, that your individual is eligible, your child is eligible, then suggest going to this website, or you can let us know and we'll help guide you as well. Medicaid waiver is put through the Bureau of Developmental Disability Services, or BEADS. And so they have two that they speak about, the Family Support Waiver and the Community Integration and Habilitation, or the CIH waiver. And so if you are not you can find out if you're eligible by going in and through this website and gathering some more information. And I'll be honest, it's hard sometimes to navigate. So if you need some support, please let us know. The Autism Society of Indiana does a great job on their website around the waiver. And I will tell you, the waiver process has changed some. So if you need some help, I would suggest go there or contact us at the IRCA. So just a final thought, transition paperwork that we talked about when you think about IETs may begin at 14, but children living with varying ability should start building capacity as early as possible. And how would you do that? You want to seek out community experiences for your child, give them responsibilities at home. things, if we hang on to the fact, or we don't give responsibility to our kids because they have a disability, we are not really setting them up for success. We want to build their capacity, and we do that by giving them responsibilities at home. And lastly, fostering independence. We can be very people dependent. If we start using those systems and people have to help put those systems in place and facilitate that, we want to really think about what systems we can help to impact independence. Some individuals are very dependent on adults for many different things, but if there is any way in any form that they can be independent, we want to make sure that is fostered. There are resources here, and you will also be receiving other resources from our team around this idea of transition to adulthood. So that's it from me. Thank you so much